We're going to tackle something today that gets the purists really angry, and that is going to be getting reliable and repeatable accuracy at a low cost, because we all know or have heard that you have to spend $5,000 to get any level of repeatable and reliable accuracy, right? I mean, right?
Impact.
Nice.
And our example that we took out to 950 yards today is going to be this right here, the budget banger, which is mostly comprised of parts that came out of a tack pack, an Anderson Blem upper receiver, and a Foxtrot mic lower receiver with a bunch of hodgepodge things going on, and a Vortex Venom 3-18, which is the new one that they released earlier this year. And of course, of all god-awful parts to put on something you're gonna try to take to 950 yards, a mil-spec standard trigger that you feel every like 7 to 8 pounds on when you're trying to hit the 950 yard target, because we didn't want to put anything on here where someone could say, well, you're cheating, you have a really nice trigger. No, basic mil-spec, and it is not great when it comes to mil-spec triggers. The whole point of this video was to prove not only to myself, but to you out there that you do not have to spend a ton of money to get reliable and repeatable accuracy out of a good scoped carbine, out to that like 500, 600, even that 950 yards. Oh, and we did that with a $120 Roscoe Chrome Moly Vanadium 5.56 barrel. Now, the first thing we have to tackle that I know that's gonna come up is somebody's gonna say budget. By budget, I don't mean this is a $500 setup, but looking at this thing right here with just a couple of different things, including the Vortex Venom, the rifle itself, but you don't get the bipod, and you don't get the cool ADM mount, although at the build list, I have another cantilever mount that I have used. But pretty much everything else on this, including the Vortex Venom, is gonna be right around 1,300 or less. You can actually save quite a bit if you go with some different parts. But again, a lot of this stuff came out of a tack pack. So it was sitting in a box and I used it. So when I'm talking budget, I mean, it's a sub $1,000 rifle, and it's about 1,300 with the optic and a cantilever mount, so you can go out there and start getting things done. And something else you need to know about is Blue Alpha gear. Now, if you guys are in need of a good belt, whether you're out there training, having fun, doing competition, whatever, or you need a duty belt, Blue Alpha gear has you covered. I've been wearing their kit for at least the past 4.5 years. They make awesome stuff right here in the United States, US source material, and they're just overall great people. So check them out if you're in need of any kind of kit or gear, or maybe even a fanny pack or something like that. They've got a lot of cool stuff over there, so make sure you give them a little bit of love. The one area I did cheat on this rifle a little bit is going to be the ammunition. So much of what's going to be possible out there is going to be based on your ammunition. That higher grain precision match ammo is obviously going to do better than your basic bulk training ammo. So I used what I'm pretty much using on everything when it comes to like a scoped carbine 5.56 right now. And that's going to be Badlands munitions, either the 75 grain Hornady match, which I'm a huge fan of, or these 77 grain Sierra Match Kings, which are also amazing as well. They make awesome ammo, they're local to me, and overall the performance and the low SDs, or standard deviation between one round and the next, has just impressed me, and overall it's performing 100% the way I want it to. So if you're interested in that, I'll have some information over at the build list as well. Starting off with that Zero, and this one also got people's panties in a bunch because I shot this and then I posted on Instagram, and I started getting all kinds of interesting and fun comments like, I don't trust 3-round Zeros, it has to be 5 to 10 rounds. So I shot this, which was probably one of the better like groups I've printed in the prone with a 5.56 at 100 yards in quite some time. And as you can see from the video here, or the photo, whichever one's up, that's a quarter MOA group, right? Coming out of a 16-inch Chrome Moly Vanadium Roscoe barrel. Now, I heard people saying, oh, you gotta have like 5 to 10 for data or whatever. Hey, you do you, boo. You wanna go out there and waste $125, $150 a shot, getting a 5 to 10 round Zero? Awesome. I'm gonna zero that thing, make sure it looks really good right there, and then I'm gonna start hitting targets to true the BC at like 500, 600, and then go to 950, because why not? Now, if you're an ELR guy shooting like king of 2 miles, yeah, you might wanna do that 5 to 10 round group. But on a scoped carbine, bro, I'm not gonna waste the extra time and money. I'm gonna get that good Zero, and I'm gonna true for ballistics, and I'm gonna go out there and start hammering targets out to 950, because once you're trued, you're good to go. So the most important parts for your build, let's get into those parts, and we're also gonna give you a couple of tips on how to actually tighten up your rifle a little bit to maybe help you achieve a little bit more accuracy. So the ammo, we already discussed that. That's numero uno. If you got bad ammo, you're just not gonna get great results. Behind that, it's the barrel. You've gotta have a solid barrel. Now, I am not saying that there aren't some barrels that are better than others. However, you can see out here, we went from a 0 through 485, I think 525 off the top of my head, 675, 710, and out to 950 with this 16-inch Roscoe chromoly vanadium barrel, which can be had for like 120 bucks, or you can buy the whole sauce pack, right? So the barrel is solid. Now I know Roscoe went through some changes a while back. They kind of retooled a little bit. They redesigned some things, and I've been testing their barrels over the past probably 2.5, almost 3 years now. And I've had great consistency, accuracy, and they are gassed very, very nicely. So they may have had a little bit of a reputation prior to that, but it appears they have fixed that. And getting that accuracy out of this thing, especially since it's brand new and going out there, was pretty awesome. Now, how long will it retain that accuracy? We're gonna see, because I'm still running those other barrels and I'm a couple thousand rounds into them. So we will see how long they hold together long term. And of course, I will report that back to you. Now behind that barrel, you need a good solid bolt and carry group. It's gotta be made of good stuff. It's gotta have good tolerances, because that's gonna help you with that repeatability. How the bolt locks up, how it loads that next round in the chamber, how it's hitting the surface area of the barrel extension, all those things matter. For the bolt on this one, it is the Roscoe that came with the sauce pack, but you can use whatever bolt you want as long as it's quality and within spec. And when it comes to the gas system, just get something that's within spec and usable. Something like Arrow, or a brand that's kind of well recognized or that you trust and have used before, because as long as the barrel, the bolt are good to go, and the gas port is drilled within spec and it's pretty good to go, as long as you get a solid setup for the gas block and the gas tube, you're gonna get everything done out there you need to. When it comes to the bolt, the things you need to pay attention to, is it properly staked, right? That gas key, is that in there? Are your gas rings good and solid? Are they getting blown out early? Because that could be a problem with either the bolt, maybe it's out of spec, or it could be a problem with the port in the barrel, pushing too much gas, too much violent action, pressing that thing out. So those are some things you kind of need to look for, and there's actually a really great resource for all that information. His name is School of the American Rifle, or SOTAR as people call him. And you can see the stuff he does with rifles to show you what's in spec, what's out of spec, how to check it yourself. And he even actually has a really cool gauge set that you can buy if you're a builder, so you can check all of your own stuff. All right, so we've got our barrel, our bolt, our ammo, and now we're gonna talk about something that's a little bit, just a little bit. So from here on out, we're talking about things that maybe give you a tiny, teeny bit more accuracy. That's going to be your muzzle device. You can use a suppressor, or you can use a huge gnarly brake. And MDT actually did a video on this recently, so you can go check that out. They actually put out some really cool videos. That's MDT, Modular Driven Technology, I think the full name. But they did show a little bit of a shift on targets depending on the muzzle device you are using. And that really comes down to, you know, do you want a huge gnarly brake, which is gonna help you maintain your follow through so you can stay on that optic, call your shots, see where the impacts are, or do you wanna use a suppressor, a little bit different? And that's really going to be up to you. But there is a slight deviation between those if you're gonna change from one to the other, so you need to pay attention to that. Obviously, just pick the one you like, go with it, leave it on there, and you should be good to go. Now, for just about everything else you choose on this thing, everything from the stock to the grip, the trigger, the controls, if you want a clear ejection port cover, again, like I said, a lot of this stuff came in a tack pack, and we're gonna go over all those little parts here in a second. As long as they are within spec, you should be good to go. Now, there are some things you can do to tighten this up just a little bit, one of which is a little bit more in depth, and the other of which are really, really easy. So the best thing you can do is true the face of the upper receiver to where the barrel extension fits into this. There's a ton of videos on how to do that out there. You do need a specific tool to do that, but basically what that does is it makes the mating surface of the barrel 100% flush to the upper receiver, and it's going to give you just maybe this much tiny bit of better results downrange. The next thing I'm gonna say you might wanna do, and this is directly from Criterion Barrels, you can check their site out. They have a video on accurizing the AR, and that was to use some form of expanding or locking compound on the barrel extension into the upper receiver, which is basically the poor man's version of thermal fitting your barrel into your upper receiver. I think it's like Loctite 609, the kind of like turquoise colored stuff, but it basically expands, locks that barrel in there so it can't move around side to side or any of that. Again, that's directly from Criterion, who makes some of the best barrels in the business. So if you don't believe me, go watch their accurizing the AR. series, and they've got some really good information for you that you should probably pay attention to. The next couple are back here in the butt end, and that is going to be one, tightening up this for your stock back here, because although this doesn't play into accuracy, right? Your accuracy is built into the upper receiver. If you've got a lot of slop here, if you think about it, if you're in position and this is moving around a lot and everything's not solid, maybe you can't or tweak just the tiniest amount, and that can have a dramatic effect downrange on where your impact is. So something that you can do here, wrap a little bit of tape around your buffer tube, put your stock over it, and you'd be surprised how tight it is. Now, whether you use masking tape or 100-mile-an-hour tape, you usually really need to use masking tape. You know, 1 or 2 pieces along here, and then when you sleeve your stock back on there, it's gonna be super tight on that tube, giving you just a little bit more of like a tight feel to the rifle. The next thing you can do in here, in the lower receiver, if you have a tension screw, adjust the tension screw so it is tight, so you're not getting a ton of slop. Because again, if you're pressing this thing out and it's got slop left to right, all that stuff going on, if you cant this thing at the last second or whatever, that can have an effect downrange. So if you don't have the screw in there that you can adjust, get one of those little accu wedges, and there are some other things you can do as well, but the accu wedge and the tensioner screw, if your lower came with it, are probably the 2 best options. Now, those are just things you can do to not only make this thing feel tighter, but actually tighten up on the range for you so you're not slopping around if you make a tiny micro adjustment as you're pulling that gnarly 8-pound mil-spec trigger if you decide to go that way. All right, so we have to go over the rest of this build here so you know what's on it, because I'm sure people are getting their lulls on in the comments down below, and I'm sure people are saying all kinds of good things and funny things about what they've seen on this rifle. Now, the parts that I personally got for this, because they were important, again, barrel, bolt, gas block, gas tube I got, and everything else came pretty much out of a tack pack. So from the buttstock to the business end, or obviously minus like the optic and the bipod, right? So buttstock to business end, okay. Mission First tactical stock, definitely not my favorite. This doesn't do you any favors on a precision setup or something you're trying to do scoped carbine with, because all of this area is area you want to rest your bag on. However, it did the job. Standard mil-spec buffer and buffer tube. I think this is an Arma spec charging handle that came in a tack pack a very long time ago. Mission First grip. Up from there, probably the nicest part on this is a forward controls design ambi safety that came in a tack pack. Literally the nicest piece on this. Basic mil-spec trigger, Foxtrot mic lower I had laying around. CMMG ambi mag release right there. A Battle Arms Development clear ejection port cover. Again, came in a tack pack, not something that I would be buying if I had my choices on it. Lower parts kit, all mil-spec, came in a tack pack. Mission First tactical rail came in a tack pack, right? The Atlas bipod up here, totally mine. I bought those. Midwest Industries quick detach optic mount, the cantilever design there, I bought that. And then the Vortex Venom we already talked about. And that is really what it comes down to when you want a budget bang. A lot of stuff came out of a tack pack, but again, you can get this pretty much as you see it with the different cantilever and without the bipod right there for right around $1,300 or less, depending on what parts you want to buy, because you could easily save another $50 when it comes to the rail. You could try to go with a different barrel, although I wouldn't suggest it. And there are some other things you could save some money on. I hope you guys enjoyed checking out the budget banger build today. You keep doing it on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And I will see you all on the next one.